Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So today we're not reviewing a movie, we're reviewing a book about a underrated actress and movie star from the glorious Hollywood past. Not Betty Davis, not Joan Crawford, not Barbara Stanwyck, all favorites of mine to be sure, but actually Natalie Wood, and the book is Natasha. This is written by Suzanne Finstad. It came out, I believe, in 2001. And she had previously written the bestseller Sleeping with the Devil, amongst other literary works. But this is the book Natasha, which is a very good read. Some of it can be a little repetitive in terms of Natalie Wood's fear of the dark water and the consistent, it's a consistent motif in this book. Certainly a recurring one, and with, a solid purpose, but it's brought up frequently. This is also, I believe, the first time that in this book it was mentioned that Natalie Wood might have, was raped when she was 16 or 17 years old, and that the perpetrator might have been Kirk Douglas. That rumor started, I believe, in 2012. Now, it hasn't been confirmed, it's been alleged, but nonetheless. So let's get the other thing out of the way, because a lot of people, when they talk about Natalie Wood nowadays, especially since 2018, it's been about she drowned and died in 1981, Thanksgiving weekend, off the Catalina coast in California. And the investigation had reopened last year. Now, of course, this book, written in 2001, is not about that, obviously. But the one thing, and of course a lot of people feel that her twice-married husband, Robert Wagner, had murdered her. There's nothing that I've read thus far, and of course I haven't read everything, and I really hate to deal with the lurid details of someone's death, but it is Natalie Wood. And is that I think it didn't quite happen that way. I think it was an accident, but nonetheless, when Robert Wagner and some others have pointed out that Natalie Wood had left on a dinghy that was attached to this boat called Splendor. This boat was named, of course, after Natalie Wood's favorite movie role, which was in the film Splendor in the Grass. And Robert Wagner was on the boat along with Christopher Walken and the captain of the boat. Now, the one thing that struck me about reading it more closely, and this book details in the closing chapter of the book, this particular accident and all the details of what had happened. Unless you believe it's a murder, it's one thing. But the thing is that Robert Wagner had pointed out much later on that Natalie Wood took off on the dinghy and left. Now, she was found with her nightgown on and a red jacket that kept her afloat, and this is how the Coast Guard had found her. She had been floating, and so she was not deep down in the dark waters. She didn't leave with her bracelet. Now, this is an important fact, because the bracelet is one that she wore on her left wrist. She always wore it any time she went out. The bracelet is significant because what happened was Natalie Wood, when she did a film called The Green Promise back in 1945 or 46, and it's a pretty good film, so it's worth checking out. There was a sequence. It's a thunderstorm, and little Natalie Wood is running across this bridge and falls, and there's mud everywhere, and trying to save the 2 lambs from the farm and so on. There was an accident, and she hit her wrist, and it caused a protrusion because her mother chose not to take her to the doctor, so not to raise any awareness about a child star going through something, because then she thought she wouldn't get so many roles, so on and so forth. It's a whole big thing. So, because she wasn't taken to the doctor, they couldn't reset the bone, and so therefore, for many years, she wore this bracelet on her left wrist. Anytime she went out. It was called, what the book refers to, the badge. There's Natasha Gurdon, and there's Natalie Wood. So anytime that Natalie Wood went out, she wore the bracelet and makeup. She always wanted to look like Natalie Wood. She had to be on when she was out from her house. She didn't wear the bracelet when she was found off the Catalina coast, and she was several yards away from the dinghy. So that meant, and she was wearing her nightgown, she did not leave that boat. So that's an important fact. Now, leaving that aside, and the whole curse about rebel without a cause and all this stuff that a lot of people believe in, the curse being between the three particular central actors of Rebel Without a Cause, Natalie Wood, James Dean, and Sal Mineo. All three died under not necessarily mysterious circumstances, Natalie Wood being the most mysterious. Sal Mineo, off topic slightly, it was discovered by James Elroy, an author who did the research to find out what really happened to Sal Mineo. Now we know he was stabbed, but there was someone that was going to rob him and stabbed him and didn't know he was Sal Mineo. Okay, so let's leave that aside for now. But aside from that, so now I'm not discussing any more Natalie Wood's drowning. The book itself really deals with Natalie Wood's life, her career. Everything from being married to Robert Wagner, to her mother, who had pushed her into the movies, literally. The circumstances of which involves a butterfly, and I'll leave it at that. But her career was based on the fact that her mother pushed Natasha to be Natalie Wood, to be the movie star. And the mother took full credit. And of course, I can understand that she would. I mean, why wouldn't she? She, after all, wanted her daughter, this was the second daughter, Olga being the oldest daughter, to be a movie star. And her father, Fuad, was not necessarily pleased by what was going on. But this was, she was being pushed into being into the movies because Natalie had to support the family. So here you have a child actress start off strongly. Miracle on 34th Street, as everybody knows. Green Promise, I guess, was sort of a minor success. A few other movies, The Jackpot and so on. But she was really being pushed. And Natalie didn't want to be there until a little later when she entered her teens, and then she really started, after a while, to push herself to be a better actor. And dabbled in the actor's studio, and then, you know, you start working with leading men eventually, like Steve McQueen, Robert Wagner, of course, on All Fine Young Cannibals. Several other actors, Frank Sinatra, then there's Tony Curtis, I mean, etc. So this book really focuses on her life and her almost split personality, the fact that eventually she had to see an analyst, and it looked like in latter years she was able to deal with her problems to a certain extent. So it is certainly worth reading. Again, some of it can be a little repetitive in the writing, but it is a fascinating chapter into someone's life. In particular, Hollywood glamour, what that really meant, especially to Natalie Wood, who eventually realized she could be Natasha too. That they didn't have to be inseparable. And I think if, you know, you notice in the 1970s, aside from The Affair, which was a TV movie she did, and The Cracker Factory, another TV movie, 1979, and From Here to Eternity, which she did the miniseries remake, there wasn't much of Natalie Wood, aside from a cameo in The Candidate with Robert Redford in 1972, and Meteor, that came out in 1979, where she got to speak Russian. I guess it's no surprise her ancestry is Russian, her mother was Russian, and her father, and so on. So it looked like she was going to step away from the limelight. Of course, she had her children and so on, but eventually she was going to step back in, and she wanted roles in, she was coveting a role in Sophie's Choice, which of course Meryl Streep did in Ordinary People, directed by Robert Redford. Robert Redford, of course, starred with Natalie Wood in This Property is Condemned, not to mention Inside Daisy Clover. So she wanted to really branch out and really prove to the world that she was a formidable actress. But the interesting thing, after reading this book and being reminded of Natalie Wood in the past and revisiting some films and some that I hadn't seen, was that she was a very underrated actress. And she herself was critical of her own performances. Splendor of Grass being her favorite. But it's just a fascinating look and really worth reading. So definitely check it out if you like Natalie Wood, or if you like reading about Hollywood from the past. At the very least, from the 40s up until the late 70s, how things started to change, the whole studio system collapsed and so on. Natasha is worth reading, and at the very least, as a book about a woman who wore her heart on her sleeve and was vulnerable, but yet she played characters who seemed somewhat independent, despite being brittle. Vivacious personalities. Some of her best films for sure had that. And trying to... And the other thing, also, we always hear that Hollywood stars have this idea that they're so above everything, and they're acting like divas and so on, and she may have acted that way, but she was very nice to everybody. And that's the thing, that's the recurring motif also from this book. Natalie Wood was always pleasant to everyone. She always felt that even though she knew she was a movie star and she had to act a particular way, she never thought of herself as that. She just thought of herself as a regular human being and treated everyone like they were just regular people. And that is the most humanistic element of this book, so definitely worth checking out. Of course, this is hardcover. I'm sure you could probably get it in softcover, but Natasha by Suzanne Finstad. Definitely worth reading. And let me know your comments. Tell me if you've read this book. What do you think about Natalie Wood? I would hope people don't, if they do comment on this video, if anyone does, let's not discuss the Catalina Coast, her drowning. I don't, there's been so much written about that. I would prefer more comments about your favorite Natalie Wood performances, or films you didn't really care for of hers, but you still liked her in them, and that's often been a consistent criticism of her work. And if you read the book, and what you think. And remember to hit like on the comments, and this is Jerry Saravia of the Movies, signing off.